All right. I'm doing another video while I'm painting, mainly because it takes my mind off the boring part of what I'm doing, which is just painting all of my Stony Shore plunderers jackets because they're all wearing greatcoats, and I'm painting them all Heresy green or whatever the color is that the Sons of Horus wore, the sea green. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is Trench Crusade. Now, Trench Crusade looks to be a skirmish level alternative to uh, 40k for people who are truly edgy boys. I mean, Trench Crusade is like straight up unapologetically the edgiest of the edgy boys. You can play um, as various united Christian sects. I've noticed some of the miniatures are, Orthodox. Some of them are servants of the Pope, etc. Or you can play the forces of hell, which are, for the most part, all, I don't want to say mortal, but they're not demons, having to do with in the lore that there is a agreement that none of the actual demons of hell will step foot on earth. You know, they've got like this compact, it's like a deal. And it kind of makes sense, really, because obviously the demons are probably smart enough to know that if they came out and started roaming around, then the forces of heaven would start sending their boys like Saint Michael and whatnot down, and then it'd be a pretty quick war, wouldn't it? So it really turns into the kind of mortal servants of both sides, and I mean that kind of, because and for both sides, kind of. You've got the if you're a 40k player, a lot of these things you're going to get immediately. So you've got the army of the Black Grell. Guess what they do? They run around spreading super black plague. They serve the demon lord Beelzebub, and they kind of cruise around and try and get as many people infected with the plague as possible. And then some of those people who get infected with the plague, they might actually come back, as plague spawn, and then they run around trying to infect people. So there's a whole thing there, right? And then the rest of the forces of hell fall under the court of the seven-headed throne or whatever, Hydra, whatever, serpent. Their forces are typically humans or animals that have been mutated to become like horrendously terrible things that will give you nightmares, like the werewolf and stuff like that. Um, and they're sending them out doing their thing, but the bulk of their army is actually humans who decided they wanted to be evil. Like, given the choice between either dying or becoming an evil bastard or however it went, there seems to be a lot of humans that just said, you know what? Yeah, I want to serve the forces of hell. This is what I want to do, right? So these are known as your heretics. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit is the your ability to, okay, you can buy the heretics, which they do look really kind of cool, right? But here's the secret. You could also just go on to like eBay and buy chaos cultists, right? And then, you know, say like me, you've got like 40 chaos cultists, right? Just mod them up. Get rid of that 8-sided star, the corn symbol, or something else like that. Maybe if you have access to some, severed heads, hang them off of some belts, whatever. The auto cannon or auto guns that they're carrying, most of them, perfectly okay. So if you're already a 40k chaos player and you have access to chaos cultists, really you're already set. You can play a heretic army. Now, some of the other stuff like werewolves and stuff like that, you might need to look into. But one of the really good things with this game, at least so far, is they're totally cool with proxies, third-party miniatures, etc. So if you have access to a 3D printer or you're willing to pay the money to have somebody on Etsy 3D print you stuff, then you can easily, get the whatever it is you want for your army. Me personally, I have thoughts about it like, damn, this game's kind of heretical, in a way. It's like they've got these things called the Metachrist, which is basically they've cloned Christ multiple times. And then they're trying to use Christ, the Metachrists, to create these ultra powerful weapons. And to a degree, it's working. That's where you're getting your, communicants and stuff like that, right? Of course, my favorite army for the good guys is the Trench Zealots. They're kind of the worst equipped guys, but their story is they just wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm going to join this band of guys. So think Flagellants from Warhammer Fantasy. And we're going to march down to the Levant, Lebanon, whatever. And we're going to throw ourselves willy-nilly directly into the face of the forces of hell and just try to kill as many of them as we can. And there is an Etsy store located in Florida that has the store rights to actually print up and sell the official miniatures. However, again, you can use proxy miniatures. So if you're one of those people that thinks Warhammer has stopped being grimdark enough for you, you want more blood and splatter and weirdness and whatnot, maybe Trench Crusade could be your thing. I mean, the guy who come up with a lot of the concept art was a Magic the Gathering artist that especially did a lot of Eldrazi art. And one of the guys working on the rule set is the same guy who worked on the Mordheim rule set for Games Workshop. And most people who were around back in the day, and some people even now, will tell you point blank that Mordheim was one of the best games Games Workshop ever put out. So if this game is anything like Mordheim, it's going to be a fun game, right? Now, the armies from my reading are generally pretty small, again, skirmish size armies. And you're fighting over no man's land and in trenches and whatever against the forces of hell. Or if you're from one of the Christian factions, you might fight against the Muslim faction, if you want. I mean, anything's possible, right? If you're playing a bunch of your proxy chaos guardsmen or whatever, maybe you could be fighting other chaos guardsmen. I mean, there's no, whatever. So I'm going to end this video. 10 minutes is enough. But if you haven't looked at Trench Crusade, it is kind of the John. It's like if 40k had been written by John Carpenter, and everything sucks, but the miniatures are really neat looking. So that said, I'm going to get back to painting my house Greyjoy, guys. Peace and love. God bless.